Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and today we're taking a look at a quarter of 2019 that suddenly got very crowded with lots of new releases packed into 3 months. With shifting release dates, new revealed dates, and some slight speculation, here are my most anticipated strategy and city building games of Q2 2019. Tropico 6 is going to kick us off with a March 29 release date, delayed from its original date earlier in the year. And yes, while that technically is still Q1, let's be honest, it's basically April at that point and rules are made for breaking. Tropico 6 is a city builder that takes us back to being in charge of a banana republic right from the fall of colonialism to the modern age, through the World Wars and the Cold Wars. With archipelagos to take care of and the inclusion of public transit, there are some new challenges to logistics that need taken care of as you ensure your supreme reign as El Presidente is uncontested. The balancing of happiness between the various types of residents with various social and political leanings is an interesting and unique challenge in this subgenre, considering how your game might end at supposedly any moment if you do a poor job of keeping your position of power in this completely 100% legal and corruption-free democratic process. The game still has that sense of humor the series is known for and maintains a great deal of customization, flair, fun, and hyperbole. I've started a beta playthrough on this channel already, and I'll be returning to it shortly. Steel Division 2 is coming up fast, set during the Second World War. The game will take you to the eastern front of the war with 2 layers of gameplay in single player, like the old war game games from Eugen used to have. There's a campaign map where you maneuver battalions, plan strategy, and recruit and deploy troops, and then there's the massive battle maps where these decisions either pay off or cost you dearly as you actually duke it out against the enemy, controlling your units and trying to get them to harmonize successfully. The biggest draw of these games has always been the complexity with which the multitude of units and unit archetypes interact with each other, and with large-scale battles that employ everything from infantry to artillery and aircraft, there are typically a variety of approaches that can be taken in any given scenario. The multiplayer scene is also quite active with this series, and the combination of strategic deck building and tactical execution has typically brought an interesting element to that aspect of these games. In all honesty, Steel Division 1 was a husk of the wargame games in comparison to what sounds like a more fleshed out and complete Steel Division 2. I am very much looking forward to it. I love the old wargame games, and this is going to be just like those, it feels like. They're super complicated, they're really hard to master, but they're easy to get into, and to me, that's what makes a great strategy game. Really looking forward to this one. Anno 1800 saw a delay in its release and was pushed back all the way to April 16th. That's right around the corner now though, and after having spent a lot of time on the closed beta, I can confidently say the game is shaping up very nicely. The series has dabbled in the sci-fi settings for the last couple games, but now we go to the Industrial Revolution and all the wonders and pitfalls that come with it. Pollution, war, the exploitation of the New World, and an entirely unique socio-economic structure there. The complex production systems have always been a major draw of these games, and Anno 1800 does not shy away from that at all. Making the most efficient empire and supporting it with a powerful naval force is a very interesting dynamic, as the city builder often finds itself shifting into an economic simulator and wartime RTS. There's always something to do in a good Anno game, and my time in the beta was very promising. I'll be covering the game in a lot more detail on the channel, so keep your eyes peeled if you're still curious. Imperator Rome has finally received a release date, and it's going to be the 25th of April. It's going to take us to a time shortly after the collapse of Alexander the Great's empire. A new grand strategy game from Paradox is always welcome, and this one seems to be blending the best parts of Victoria, Europa Universalis, Crusader Kings, and perhaps even Stellaris. With a map that goes from the Iberian Peninsula to the Bay of Bengal, and from Scandinavia to the Horn of Africa, there is a great deal of variety and a truly grand scale to this game. Grow a nation, raise armies, conquer your enemies, and do it all while managing loyalties and happiness at home. Paradox seems to be very consistent with hitting it out of the park, and I'm thoroughly excited for this new edition and everything it brings to the table. We're bound to get countless years of support through DLC as well, and when done right, Paradox DLC can completely change core mechanics time and time again. This is definitely one to look forward to, and definitely one I'll be covering on the channel. Total War 3 Kingdoms was hit with another delay in its release, pushed back all the way to the 23rd of May. I'm not one to fault a developer for making that tough decision though, and on the bright side, we've been able to see a lot more pre-release gameplay from this new entry into the series. For those that don't know, Total War has always been unique in how it blended turn-based empire building on a grand campaign map with city management and politics, and real-time battles fought between the armies you create and move around on said map. Taking us to 3 Kingdoms era China seems like a great call for a game that has so many mechanics and systems based around character relationships, diplomacy, and, of course, war, and we have recently seen the Records mode of the game. That is the more historically grounded counterpart to the fantastical romance mode that also exists. Now, the game itself is looking good, and what we've seen of the diplomacy and character relationship systems has me very, very excited for the future of Total War. We're seeing some new mechanics and some new ideas being developed, and it's always nice to see in a series that has been going on for so long. I'm definitely going to be covering this one in a lot more depth as we get closer to release, and of course afterwards as well. Phoenix Point has been on these lists for a while, and with the June 2019 release date, it's almost time to break out the champagne. I've been a backer for Phoenix Point since I first came across it, and that's because it looks like the next big XCOM-style game. In fact, the lead designer behind Phoenix Point is the same man that was behind the original XCOM games, and the spirit and challenge of that series is clearly present in Phoenix Point. Some key standouts show how the subgenre still has room for improvement. Innovation in this area is not at an end. The ability to aim your shots at specific points, allowing you to circumvent armor and cover, is huge for this subgenre, and the concept of enemies that evolve to counter your strategies is something that countless games have said they're going to do, but it always seems a little disappointing. Here with Phoenix Point though, it's a core mechanic, and that should make every encounter somewhat unique. It definitely feels and sounds like they're pulling it off right. Pair that with the geoscape in which you plan your operations against this strange alien menace, and you've got the standard strategic layer of upgrading equipment, assigning skill points, and flying to while preparing for the next engagement. And this is for multiple factions, not just the one, so there's diplomacy involved as well, there's relationship management, all the good stuff. Now, ammo is scarce, leaving you scavenging on the battlefield, lives are easily lost, making you cautious with every move, and operations can get extremely large, with up to, and I think maybe even over, 12 operatives on any given mission, including deployable turrets, including vehicles. There's all sorts of madness planned here. Phoenix Point has everything it takes to cause a massive change to the subgenre that has started to become a little tired and stale, so I cannot wait to dive in on it. Age of Wonders Planetfall is right around the corner now with an August 6th release date. This series is entering the sci-fi space with what looks like a very compelling 4X game that brings in RPG elements and tactical XCOM-style combat to introduce some unique elements in the subgenre. Now, we've seen quite a bit of gameplay through live streams and marketing material that has shown us the great variety that we can expect. Each faction has its own unique approach to things, and rather than minor differences when compared to each other, they're rather massive differences, completely changing playstyles as it should be. Unit customization is another thing that I'm a big fan of, and the complicated approach to tech trees seems quite compelling. And yes, worth a second mention, the blend of tactical battles with grand strategy makes for a gameplay experience with more room for variety and, more importantly, more room for challenge. I'm very much looking forward to this one, especially to see how all these parts come together and just how strong each of those elements are, or if anything feels particularly weak. Really looking forward to this one. I feel like there's something special about to happen.
What a cool flower.
Great. Pick it up and send it to your mother.
Chief, whoa! Enemy troops dead ahead!
Shit! Stand down, or we'll squash you like insects.
You would die for a fallen empire? No more!
Drop your weapons and dismount that dinosaur! Right now!
Never. The empire you serve is long gone. You freed yourself.
You listen to her, and that is the last thing that you'll ever hear.
Don't let him control you again.
Surrender if you want to live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Conan Unconquered is due out sometime in Q2 2019, and it looks like an interesting RTS in the same style as They Are Billions. The developers have gone as far as to say that they were actually inspired by the likes of Frostpunk and They Are Billions as they worked on this survival RTS, this new, strange subgenre that seems to be getting more entries by the month. Some extremely early alpha footage is available for viewing, but not much else is known about the game other than the fact that it's set in the Conan universe, it has base building and survival elements, and that you'll be defending yourself against hordes of enemies as well as the elements while using soldiers, magic, and beasts alike. The game is all about remaining unconquered for as long as possible, all while crushing your enemies, seeing them driven before you, and hearing the lamentations of their women.
You fight for. Remain unconquered!
Desperados 3 is set for a summer 2019 release, and my desperate self is hoping that this falls somewhere between June 21st and July 1st, so, still Q2. And mainly because I just can't wait to get back to the Wild West with this series. Less of what one might consider a traditional strategy game, this series has always been about controlling a small group of specialist characters on an isometric map, finding synergies between their abilities and the environment around you that will help you overcome the situation at hand in a large variety of ways. In fact, the developers have gone so far as to say it's kind of like the old Hitman games, where there were multiple ways to approach the same target and countless ways to pull off the same moves. Now, there's ample amounts of sneaking around and planning involved, and the developers previously brought us Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun back in 2016. That's a similar game as far as the subgenre is concerned, and something that gives me high hopes for this Desperados sequel. With a squad of up to 5, including returning protagonist John Cooper in the lead, we're bound to see some great storytelling as the tale of Desperados continues in 1870's Wild West. If you were a fan of that game or the old Commandos games, this is definitely one to look forward to with ample excitement. Darkest Dungeon 2 is a bit of a long shot, but I couldn't resist including this in the list with a sparkle of hope in my eye. The first game spent a long time in early access, and it's actually one of the few examples of a game that was worth that kind of support in my opinion. And so, I hope the recently announced Darkest Dungeon 2 gets into early access over the next few months so we can dive in. The beautiful voice that dominated the first game will be making a glorious return, and the fighting will supposedly be a tuned-up version of the system in the first game that worked pretty well. We don't know too many details, but the devs have also suggested a change in metagame, and the teaser video implies something to do with a mountain pass. Perhaps? Now forgive my excitement and the prematurity with which I'm including the game on a list like this, but I loved the first, and I'm super excited for the sequel. Keep your eyes on this channel for more coverage as soon as it's possible. I really hope this video helps you brace your wallet and make your plans for this coming quarter. It's a very busy one, and it might get very expensive. And if you'd like to know more about other interesting games in the genre coming out later in the year, check out the 2 videos I've linked at the end of this video, and I've pinned them in the comment down below as well. 2019 is going to be a great year for strategy gaming fans. As always, I'm sure to have missed some other greats, so let me know in the comments below if I've missed any of your most anticipated games, and I'll check them out. And let me know if any of these games have caught your eye. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more strategy gaming content, and I'd like to give a massive thanks to all of my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Till next time, thank you all for watching, and cheers.